This is the CATL Qilin Condensed Electrolyte Battery. It is not a solid-state battery, but it accomplishes a lot of the key benefits we've been after for so long. And it does so not with a solid electrolyte like a ceramic like others have tried, but with a novel approach, a condensed electrolyte. It's like a gel. It's neither liquid or solid. And by doing so, they get a lot of the key benefits. It's a much safer battery, even if it was punctured, and it produces much higher energy density. They claim 350 watt-hours per kilogram. So in this episode, we flew out to Beijing to partner with CATL to give you a first-hand look at why this could be an absolute game changer, how they've done it, and why sometimes approaching problems with a different perspective can yield some answers. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Vinci. So what exactly is condensed state? Well, every lithium-ion battery on the road today uses a liquid electrolyte, a lithium salt dissolved in flammable organic solvents. And that liquid is what carries lithium ions back and forth between the two electrodes every time you charge and discharge. It also is what catches fire when a cell is punctured. Now, a true solid-state battery replaces the liquid electrolyte with a solid one, usually a brittle ceramic. And that's where the manufacturing nightmares begin. CATL's answer sits right between the two worlds. Not a flowing liquid and not a rigid solid, but a condensed phase. The electrolyte behaves like a high viscosity polymer gel, engineered so that ions still move as freely as if it was in a liquid, but nothing inside the cell can actually flow. It goes in as a liquid on the assembly line and only hardens into a gel once the cell is sealed, locked in place by a polymer network. It can't pour out and it cannot leak. And most importantly, it cannot flow across the separator if the cell were ever punctured, which is one of the great promises of a solid-state battery, right? The safety. Now, here's the headline number. A Qilin condensed cell delivers 350 watt-hours per kilogram and a volumetric energy density of 760 watt-hours per liter, a new world record for a mass-produced battery. My EV at home, my Tesla Model S, with this pack would go over 420 miles compared to the 310 miles it does today with the same weight. Now, one of the things we nerd about with batteries is this number, the gravimetric energy density. That is the 350 watt-hours per kilogram. And that is amazing. But let's not forget about the volumetric energy density. And this 760 watt-hours per liter is also record-breaking. That introduces the ability to do some unique things when it comes to car design. Remember that in an EV, this platform battery module is what you build a car around. This is what determines what the car looks like. If you need a really long-range car, you need space to put those batteries. This is the Qilin battery here on the inside. And this is what a high-nickel NMC battery would look like of the same amount of energy. And this is what a LFP lithium iron phosphate battery would look like for the same energy. Look at how much smaller the pack becomes. This means a couple of things. This means you can get longer range on a smaller car, or you could get more battery capacity, more energy on bigger cars like third-row SUVs or pickup trucks or commercial trucks. You could actually get the kind of range that you need. They state that a 650 kilowatt battery pack is good for 1,500 kilometers. That's pretty amazing. That's longer range than most gasoline tanks could even offer. Look at the height comparison as well. These cells would actually be shorter. Why does that matter? Well, legroom in a sedan, right? You'd be sitting with your feet lower on the floor, and it has a lower center of gravity, better handling, all that enabled by higher volumetric energy densities. Now let's talk about the specifics of how they reach 350 watt-hours per kilogram. On the cathode, they use a high nickel cathode. CATL stacks 3 stabilizing technologies on top of each other. High entropy doping, which bakes multiple elements into the crystal lattice to resist the structural fatigue that normally ages a high nickel cathode over hundreds or thousands of cycles. A zero contact angle coating, which is chemistry speak for a protective layer that wraps around every particle surface with no gaps, which shuts down the likelihood of side reactions from the electrolyte. And then there's nano riveting, which is kind of what it sounds like. Nanoscale mechanical interlocks that hold the cathode particles together against the stress of repeated charging. On the anode side, they use a low expansion silicon carbon anode. Now, introducing silicon into the anode isn't new. Many companies do this. But the percent, how much silicon is used, is always controlled. And it's because Pure silicon swells up to 300 times its original size when charging and discharging, which would be no good for a cell. So clearly the breakthroughs here allow them to introduce more silicon, which means higher energy densities, more room to store lithium ions while keeping the swelling in check. CATL engineered the anti-swelling behavior both at the individual particle level and across the entire electrode to cage that 300% swelling, which is what normally tears at the thin protective film inside the cell called the SEI, or the solid electrolyte interface, that keeps the electrode from side reacting with the anode. That combination of cathode and anode engineering is where the extra 50 watt-hours per kilogram come from. Now, running a very high nickel cathode and a silicon-rich anode together in a conventional liquid electrolyte cell would be like a fight against physics. The cathode runs hot, the anode breathes, the electrolyte degrades in the middle of both. The condensed electrolyte is what makes this pairing stable at scale. The polymer network holds its shape as the silicon swells and contracts, and the absence of free liquid lowers the thermal risk of running the cathode at the edge of its stable window. So the three pieces, high nickel cathode, silicon carbide anode, and condensed electrolyte, are not three separate improvements stacked next to each other. They are a single, tightly coupled system where none of them work at scale without the others. Now, CATL has actually built a second line of defense underneath. Every cell carries a composite current collector. It's the metal foil that the electrode sits on. So this composite current collector is designed to melt, to act as kind of like a circuit breaker in your house to prevent contact and stop the activity of the battery cell. So these breakthroughs in the cathode and anode get us the 50 watt-hours per kilogram compared to the traditional non-condensed form. Then the final 20 watt-hours per kilogram comes from the packaging, the Aerospace-Grade titanium alloy enclosure. Now, titanium is really, really nice. It's incredibly strong and lightweight, but it's expensive. But here, by comparing it to a traditional aluminum enclosure, they're able to drop the thickness 60%, the weight 30%, and the strength is twice as strong. So the 280 on the Qilin traditional pack, plus 20, plus 50, gets us to 350. Pretty amazing. This battery wasn't actually originally designed for cars. It was designed for airplanes. The 500 watt-hour per kilogram aerospace program this battery builds on has already completed maiden-flight validation on a 4-ton aircraft. This is flying hardware tested to aviation-grade standards and safety regimes that is several steps stricter than automotive standards. What CATL is really doing is taking this aviation-grade technology and bringing it to passenger cars. And the story here is not a car battery that might someday scale up to aviation. It's the other way around. Now, by going after the same goals in a different parallel path, CATL's just done that. It's the battery equivalent of realizing that while everyone else was waiting for a bridge to be finished, somebody else built a ferry that crosses the same river today. Now, I'm pretty blown away at how much they've shared with us actually about how this all works. It's pretty amazing to see and to get a glimpse, at least at a surface level, of some of the breakthroughs. But companies like CATL, battery companies, have incredible levels of IP and proprietariness. But this condensed electrolyte is super interesting. The flame test, the fact that it's very flame retardant, or at least much more thermally resistant than a liquid electrolyte, speaks volumes to the safety of the cell. But what's probably even more interesting, knowing CATL, knowing that whatever they do have to be gigawatt-hour scale capacity, I bet this condensed electrolyte is something they figured out how to mass produce in their traditional assembly lines without too much retooling at scale. That is the interesting part. We cover this tech all the time. We cover better batteries, safer batteries, right? But it's always a small company that you hope will scale one day. This is CATL. They produce more batteries than anybody. And if anyone's gonna get this out on the street fast, it's them. Now, one of the most fascinating areas of CATL's Tech Day is this, the Naxtra sodium-ion battery. This is the first mass-produced battery chemistry that proves an actual alternative to lithium. And sodium is way more abundant here on Earth. So what LFP, lithium iron phosphate batteries, have done for EVs, bringing down prices, Sodium ion will do next, bringing prices to areas and levels that we have not seen before. If you want a really affordable EV, this is probably going to be the way we get to it. Now, there's also some really interesting benefits. For example, extreme cold weather performance. This cell, this Naxtra sodium ion cell, is sitting in that chamber at negative 50 degrees Celsius, and it can still power my phone. A typical lithium ion cell won't even crank over, it won't provide current at these temperatures, but this handles it just fine. That battery has no active heating, negative 50 degrees Celsius. I actually have been somewhere at negative 60 degrees Celsius before in Canada, in a place called Cold Lake, and yeah, that feels about like what I remember. So not only does it not need active heating, but it can just operate in these temperatures. People in North America, Canada, and northern parts of Europe would love a battery like this. And behind me is a Tesla coil running on that pack back there. Again, in the same negative 50 degree chamber. CATL is gonna have gigawatt-hour capacity, mass manufacturing of Naxtra sodium ion cells later this year. This will be in EVs this year. And wait to see what that does to prices. This is now my second Super Tech Day here with CATL, and it's amazing seeing every one of these batteries evolving at a yearly cadence. It's pretty wild to see for a battery company. Now, CATL should get a lot of credit because they're probably one of the pioneer companies that have done more for the world of e-mobility than anybody else. If you came to China 15 years ago, it would have been loud and full of pollution from all those little scooters, two-stroke scooters. Now, I've been to 3 cities in China on this trip: Shenzhen, Chengdu, and now here in Beijing, and I'm going to Shanghai next. These are some of the quietest cities I've ever been to. Compared to any North American city or anywhere else in Asia, the cities of China are whisper quiet. Air quality is improving. It's pretty amazing to see, and it all comes from this breakneck speed of innovation and speed. And remember, the things that we're talking about with CATL are not theoretical. These things are going to be shipping like later this year. On this wall behind me, they've got batteries. This is from a bus that's done 540,000 kilometers over about a 6-year lifespan, and it still has 82% of its original energy capacities. And over here, this is a taxi that has done 800,000 kilometers. And this is what CATL has been doing. They've been doing it for so long. Their expertise, they have over 100,000 employees, and their innovation is incredible. So I think this is going to be an event that I attend every year. I love seeing the innovation. I have learned a ton, and it's been amazing seeing this yearly cadence from battery companies. How awesome is that? Sound off in the comments below. How amazing was that Qilin Condensed Electrolyte Battery? It has a lot of the benefits that we've been after for so long with solid state, but in a completely different route to get there. Pretty amazing. I hadn't even heard of that till now. And let us know if you'd like to see more in-depth content. I'd love to get in touch with CATL and do more stuff, a factory tour, really nerd out over the chemistry and learn more about this stuff. Let us know. And until next week, I'm Vinci. Thank you so much for watching.